Thank you, friend. Shabbat shalom. Greetings to you all. It's always a pleasure to see you. I certainly hope you've all been enjoying your Hanukkah as it winds down to a beautifully burning 8th day of miracle honoring as we watch the light increase each day, as we increase the light in our lives each day. And remember, it does not have to stop at 8 days. You can bring light into your life every day. Every day you can bring more light into your life and therefore bring more light into the world. Now this week I've been coming to you from somewhere in the Caribbean where I've been hosting Hanukkah services each day a different place. Haiti, Grand Cayman, Jamaica, Mexico. And as you can see, there's a towel monkey hanging on the door behind me there. And and it's just been great to be able to bring services where there haven't been and where people really needed them. So I'm honored to have done that. And this week we had a few historical anniversaries. We had the anniversary of the attack of Pearl Harbor, that twist of fate which brought the United States into World War II and saved Europe and the Jewish nation from sure extermination. And many see that incredibly strange move by Japan of attacking the U.S. as a miracle. It was the anniversary of the death of John Lennon, who graced the world with some wonderful music, and while perhaps in life not always the kindest or nicest of individuals, has left us with two anthems that will never be forgotten. All we are saying is give peace a chance. Give peace a chance, my friends. An anthem of a generation, and one that is still being invoked, and the simple realization that all you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. The simple miracle of how to live life, and the summation of what the Torah teaches. So true. And even though we know it, we sing it, we do not necessarily do it. We have miracles every day, but we take them for granted, and we do not always recognize them. A vacation is actually a miracle. Up to probably 100 years ago, people did not take vacations. They worked and survived. As I said, Japan attacking Pearl Harbor was a miracle, but no one at the time would have thought so. Being here together is a miracle. And the fact that we are here as people from all places, all nationalities, all religions, may too be seen as a miracle. Although it was the way it was meant to be. There is only one God, and the same God created all men from his spirit, his breath, his soul, ruach, and man created religion. But that's another story. As we know, this is one of the twin festivals of light, Hanukkah and Christmas, when the earth is at its darkest, and we celebrate the return of growing light. So let us celebrate that spirit, that power of creation. The one thing that Genesis tells us was not in existence was light. When you read the creation story, you see that it is a story of separations, pre-existing matter, water from above, water from below. And the only thing we are told which is created ex nihilo, from nothing, is when God says, let there be light. Light. Much more powerful than dark, with the full power of God in it. Have you noticed that in a dark room, one little light can drive away the fear of darkness, but in a room full of light, darkening it a little does not have that much of an effect. Now we've been celebrating light. The name Hanukkah derives from the Hebrew verb chanok, meaning to dedicate. This is the time for all of us to dedicate ourselves to living in a world of light, and we create light by the little things we do every day. So please, in this dark time, do just a little more light and drive the darkness away. There are certain things we see that we appreciate: forests, clouds, mountains, seas, all the evidence of something greater than man. But you actually get a heightened appreciation when you're in them. Staring at clouds, it's not the same as flying through and above and seeing their formation. Shapes with the feelings that, just make you wonder what they are, and you just want to reach out and touch them. We stare at mountains, and we feel what Moses might have felt on his way up to the burning bush. But it's not the same as climbing up into them and seeing their true majesty up close. You can see a ship on the sea or sail on a lake, but it's not the same as feeling the power of the ocean as you see what an insignificant speck you are in the grand scheme of things. Now, we've all done these things. I've done all of these. We all can. But not all of us will ever experience what Joseph did. You can read about people with his situation. I'm talking about him being incarcerated. And the route they take when free. Some hate, some live for vengeance, some learn to love. We saw it briefly, my friends. We saw it exercised by Esau. We will see it beautifully embodied by Joseph. And of course, an entire religion was built on it. The forgiveness mechanism. Esau forgave Jacob for his stealing and deceptions. Joseph, who could, and to many, should have harbored a grudge and hatred towards his brothers, but instead forgave them. He even saw them as agents of God. Had they not orchestrated his sojourn to Egypt, his family would have perished, and none of us would be who we are today. And of course, all Jesus had to say was, Father, forgive them. And he spawned the second biggest religion on earth. And we grew up in school saying it every day, the Lord's Prayer. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Some think it was taken from an early form of the Amida, the standing silent prayer we say every day, containing the component pieces. It praises, it sanctifies, and it entreats. We've read about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the three patriarchs. But the one to emulate is Joseph. Technically not a patriarch, but the true savior of the people, and a man who was an example of love and forgiveness. Friends, we have had some pretty powerful and pretty amazing dreams in the Torah so far. But if you asked anyone what the most memorable and perhaps even what the most powerful dreams in the Torah are, they would probably say the twin dreams of Pharaoh, which we are about to read and which open this parsha, Miketz, at the end. And we are told it was now 2 years later. Joseph has been languishing in the prison house, waiting, wondering, certainly thinking that the cupbearer has forgotten him. And friends, take note of the numbers that you encounter. Numbers are important in the Torah. There is an incredible study of numbers and relationships of words in the Torah because numbers and letters were the same and their relationships spoke volumes. Joseph was 17 when we first met him, thrown in a pit to die, and then raised from it and sold. When I was 17, it was a very good year. Well, perhaps for Frank Sinatra, but not for Joseph. Or perhaps it was. Who's to say that the brother selling him to the Ishmaelites was not the initiation of the miracle? We do not know when, how, or why they occur. And at 30, after 13 years in Egypt, most of them in prison, he was raised for a second time from a pit and became the second most important and powerful man in Egypt. And 13 is still to this day a very important number in the growth and development of a Jewish boy. Vayehi miketz sanatayim yamin uparo cholem vachine omed al cheyor. And it happened. At the end of 2 full years, the Pharaoh dreamed, and look, he was standing by the Nile. And look, out of the Nile came up 7 cows, fair to look at, fat and flesh. They grazed in the rushes. And look, another 7 cows came up after them out of the Nile, foul to look at, meager in flesh, and stood by the cows on the bank of the Nile. And the foul-looking, meager flesh cows ate up the 7 fair-looking fat cows. And Pharaoh awoke, and he slept, and dreamed a second time. And look, 7 ears of grain came up on a single stalk, fat and goodly. And look, 7 meager ears, blasted by the east wind, sprouted after them. And the meager ears swallowed the 7 fat and full ears, and Pharaoh awoke, and look, it was a dream. And it happened in the morning that his heart pounded. You know, I get the heart pounding. The second part of the cow dream is not a dream at all, but a nightmare. It's the nightmare before Christmas visit to the cow pasture as herbivores turned carnivorous. Friends, there were messages in the dream numbers that we have seen. Pharaoh's twin dreams contain the number 7. The butler and baker's dreams contained the number 3. And Joseph's dreams contained the number 12. Each an important sacred number in ancient Judaism, and totaling the 22 paths on the tree of life, an all-encompassing message. Now Pharaoh found none who could explain his dreams, and the cupbearer remembered Joseph, and destiny changed for Joseph, for what would become the Jewish nation, and for Egypt. And Joseph had grown. He was no longer the self-absorbed narcissist that we met at 17. Pharaoh summoned Joseph and asked about his skill, and Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, "Not I. God will answer for Pharaoh's well-being." The words of wisdom, of knowing where all things, words, thoughts emanate from, of knowing our true place. He has aged a few physical years and 1,000 spiritual years. And what's especially of note, my friends, is not the interpretation of this. Right? The interpretation's fantastic, but the then giving advice when none was actually sought. Right? Pick a wise person to administer, he tells Pharaoh. And not missing a beat. Pharaoh thought it was a great idea, and he looked no further. And it's interesting that, without being asked, he makes this suggestion, and that Pharaoh immediately would accept it. It's also interesting that the name for God which Joseph uses when he talks to Pharaoh is Elohim, which means that it's a familiar name to Pharaoh. Hey, Joseph's been there 13 years. He knows who the Egyptian gods are. He knows their names. And in every other part of the Torah, the gods belonging to a country are mentioned by their names that they're called in that country. Here it's Elohim. I've always been fascinated by that. And Joseph is now given an Egyptian name, meaning God speaks, he lives. Friends, the dreams have come true. 7 years of good that Joseph saw stockpiled, all of the good and the plenty. And now we're about to enter the 7 years of drought and starvation. And during this time, Joseph will prove just how good an administrator he was for Pharaoh as he acquires all the remaining land and crops for Pharaoh. And his brother and his father are feeling the effects of the drought. Jacob decides that they should go down to Egypt to get some fruit. The text reads in Genesis 42:1, "And Jacob saw there was grain in Egypt, and Jacob said to his sons," now again those two verbs, to see and to hear. They created Isaac's karma. They became the names of Jacob's first two sons and play out in his karma with his wife, his children. We all remember what happens. The brothers leave Benjamin at home. They go down to Egypt. Joseph recognizes them, but they do not know him. And his first dream comes true. Genesis 42:6. "And Joseph's brothers came and bowed to him," Moses, to the ground. I don't know, but it sure seems biblical karma was certainly pretty instant. And of course, there's no reason for them to recognize him. To them, Joseph's dead. And no one would think this second most important man in Egypt would ever be their brother. Hey, it's now 20 years later. And some of the greatest stories, plays, and films we have seen and read have the tried and true theme of mistaken identity. Much Ado About Nothing, Twelfth Night, The Comedy of Errors, The Big Lebowski. And just to keep the brothers in the dark longer, he could understand what they said, but they did not know he did because he kept an interpreter there. You could almost feel their karma unfolding. But this, too, is in for a twist. People tell me it's a sin to know and feel too much within. I still believe she was my twin, but I was born too late. Blame it on a simple twist of fate. The karmic touches are tremendous. The brothers talking about the guilt they felt, not over the charge of stealing, but of what they had done to Joseph. We learn that he pleaded with them when they threw him in the pit. Perhaps we'd start to look at things a little differently. And rather than rejoice in his victory, we are told that Joseph wept the first of 3 times. They buy food. They have to leave Simeon. They leave and they find that their silver was returned, and this freaks them out. We then see Jacob not overly concerned about his son. Simeon being held in prison while he and the others ate all the food they brought back. And only when they were hungry again and had no more food did he think that they should go back down to Egypt and get more. More and more you have to wonder about the character of this man who has lived his life with fear and deception surrounding him the entire time. Now Joseph warned them not to come down without their brother Benjamin. And when they were starving again, they convinced Jacob they needed to go. And when they did, they took double the silver that was returned, and another batch, and more to buy more food. Genesis 43:15. And the men took this tribute and double the silver they took in their hands. And Benjamin, and they rose and they went down to Egypt and stood in Joseph's presence. Friends, they returned home with 10 weights of silver. Each brother's payment was returned. And now they take that and double it so that they come to give Joseph 20 weights of silver to he who was sold for 20 pieces of silver. The numbers will continue to speak out. Look for the numbers in this whole section of Genesis. And they approached the man who was over Joseph's house, and they spoke to him by the entrance of the house, and they said, "Please, my lord, we indeed came down the first time to buy food. And it happened when we came to the encampment that we opened our bags, and look, each man's silver was in the mouth of his bag. Our silver in full weight, and we have brought it back in our hand. We've brought down more silver to buy food. We do not know who put the silver in our bags." And he said, "All is well with you. Do not fear. Your God and the God of your father has placed treasure for you in your bags. Your silver has come to me." You see, friends, it is as easy as that, but we do not want to believe it. Do not fear. They lived in fear like their father lived in fear. We do not want to believe that things can be that easy. But that too is one of the true miracles of life, of faith, of belief. Friends, recite this. Light the candles. That's all you have to do. This is a time for miracles. You have them in your life every day. Miracles are dreams that come true. The world is sacred, my friends. So is everything in it. Express your gratitude. Light a candle. Make a wish. Celebrate your life and the lives of those you love. Share your feelings with them. Live free. Be free. Honor your freedom. This is a festival of freedom. Be well, be happy, be blessed. Share and honor the light and all who live in the light, and continue to shine. Continue to send everyone you know goodwill and love. Pray for peace and freedom for everyone, an end to terror and hatred. Remember, friends, we are a community. We learn together, we celebrate each other, we love each other. We share this ride together, men and women equally. Let us send out love, not fear. Send out peace, harmony, good healing to all who need it. And please do learn to forgive, learn to love. Follow the call of freedom, because the journey is there for you to enjoy. Now, thank you all. Love you. See you all next time. I do love seeing you all, and remember, your wishes come true. And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. Bless you all. Have a fantastic week. A week of love, a week of healing, a week of thanks and peace. Keep lighting the lights of miracles. Keep dreaming. And thank you all for joining me